Is it digital? Is it physical? It's art.
If you are fortunate enough to be born with a gift, it is also your responsibility to share that gift, not only to benefit yourself, but to benefit others, your people, your community.
Live with your work, artists. See which ones are misbehaving, which ones are sitting around your studio that need more attention. The ones you notice you just did and that came out of habit, not disruption or uncertainty.
The answer is a direct connection. Put your artwork in front of others as much as you can. And of course, use a website, use any means necessary to get your artwork in front. You don't know what's working until you try.
You just keep going.
There's no choice, right?
There's no choice.
Yeah.
And you can't be a victim because then you're not going to keep going.
I think posting online and just telling people like, I'm going to do this thing for 365 days. That is motivating. That's exciting.
You are musical. You are artistic. We all have a gift. We all have a gift. We just have to find it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anastasia. I am head of content at .art domains, and we are gathered here today for a very special occasion. We are celebrating 10 years of .art. That means we launched 10 years ago and have been building this amazing community for all this time. And also right now we are launching the .art Awards, which is a prize that really dedicates itself to all of the artists and the artistic processes that go together with creative aspirations of our community. And I would like to first give the stage to our founder, Ulvi, who will say a few words about it. Oh, Ulvi has dropped off, but that's fine. We can just start with the presentation and slowly tell you about everything that the award involves. So maybe he will come back in time for that. Ulvi, is it working for you?
Yeah, now it's working because I can't hear you.
Oh, great. You have the stage.
Okay, but I haven't heard what I have
So
to say.
I said that, you know, we're celebrating 10 years and we are launching the award. So if you could just give a bit of the story behind the 10 years and how we got to this incredible point. That would be great.
Actually, it's quite a long story. All that stories we published in our books. Anastasia is the head of content of that books. But yes, speaking about our new award, .art award, actually it's not so new because it's kind of continuation of our previous digital innovation in art and culture award. But because of initially we were part of venture community, that's why we had that type of award. Now we are feeling ourselves as a part of art community. So we changed the purpose of this award, and the idea is to give a stage to provide more context to any kind of art and culture activity.
Yeah, and I think as we were saying before, it's especially important now because with AI, of course, you can create an artwork in 5 seconds, but really it's all the years before that count and all the processes that went into that, right?
Yeah, well, as any other instrument, it has pros and cons, and all that AI tools is just another instrument with, of course, some specifics. And if we could give more context about how we create our artworks, that AI tools could play its role, positive role, rather than negative.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add Jeff back since he managed to figure out his tech stuff.
Sorry, I even though I have my official calling you from the lab. I got disconnected by my computer. I'm sorry. But happy to be. Yes, you wanted me to add, as you were saying about
Yeah, we were talking.
First of all, as the .art, as the .art registry for the .art domain space, we actually do a lot more than just manage the domain .art. We provide a lot of services and content to support artists and creative and culture. So, we have obviously the .art domain name, but we also have HUG.art, which we acquired 2 years ago, which is a wonderful artist platform. We also have ID.art, which is another platform of ours. We publish many publications. We have an artist handbook we publish. We publish an annual every year, and we produce a lot of content like this webinar to support creativity, art, and culture. And also, I just wanted to mention about our Healing Power of Art initiative. We also devote a portion of our revenue to support access to an awareness of the healing powers of art and art therapy. And that was inspired by our official artist, Medina, who had some issues at childbirth that she overcame through her art. So she's the inspiration behind that. And, as Anastasia and Ulvi mentioned, it's our 10th anniversary. And the .art Award is something that we're very excited about. And we'll tell you a lot more about that. And as Ulvi was saying, the idea behind documenting and cataloging not only your inspiration, but your creative process is something that's very important. It's that story, it's that context that creates the value behind artwork. And also, as Ulvi was mentioning, in this new world where many people, many artists are using AI as a tool, as another paintbrush, another digital paintbrush, it's important to be able to share your process in working with AI, so that when people see the end result, they understand that this is not just giving a prompt to some computer and then there's the finished work, that most AI art is a collaboration between the artist and the AI as a tool. So the .art Award gives you the opportunity to share that story too.
Yeah, and also I think as we were talking within the team behind the scenes, we were saying that as you prepare for the award and you put together your portfolio and you kind of collect all of the pieces of information and archives that you maybe have, lying around in your studio, that itself, the exercise might be very useful for your practice. So we're hoping that, by just going through the process of the application, maybe it will bring something up that helps you in your creative practice.
And it's a lasting thing online. So even if you're not one of the prize winners, you've created something that lasts and will help you promote yourself and your artwork. And I think, having a .art domain, as we've talked about in many other sessions, for an artist and a creative, it's important because there is no centralized body in the art world that certifies you as an artist, right? If you're an artist, it's self-declared. You're an artist because you say you're an artist. So that .art domain really functions as an important part of your creative identity. And whether you use it for a website or point to your work on a platform or a social media site, it's still your proclamation that you're serious about your creative work.
Great. Jeff, you're breaking up a little bit, so I'm going to add Daria to the stage. And Daria is our head of art and strategic partnership. And she'll really introduce the award in a proper way. And please remember that at any point in time, if you have questions, you can drop them in the comments section. We're going to have Q&A at the end, and we'll love to address those questions for you. So Dasha, if you could walk us through the main points of the award, that would be great.
Yeah, with pleasure. Thank you, Anastasia. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Very exciting day for us. So a couple of words about the .art Award. It was created not only to support artists across disciplines, but also to refocus the attention on something that sometimes might be also overlooked: the narratives and the context, and also the thinking process behind the artistic creation. And very often also audiences encounter only the final artwork, so the finished object or image or installation, but then the process behind might remain invisible, almost like fragmented and even eventually lost. But the artist practice is never only about the outcomes, it's also about this process. It's about the research, it's about the experimentation, references, sometimes failures, sometimes transformations, materials, and the time itself. And with this award, we really wanted to create a platform that values artistic process as much as artistic production. So the core idea itself is rather simple, but we believe important. Artists should be able to document and present their practices also from a first-person perspective. And to do this, to preserve the stories behind an artwork before the stories might be forgotten or overlooked, and also rewritten retrospectively. So in this sense, this initiative is also deeply connected to the questions of authorships and provenance as well. And this is exactly why the application format itself is quite different from a standard one. So you can apply through the award.art website by sending a .art domain URL, which can lead to either the website of the artist already existing on .art or on some other extension like .com or .net, so it can be a simple redirect. It can be also redirect to an artist platform profile, as the colleagues were mentioning earlier, to HUG.art, to ID.art, to OpenSea. It can also point to a social media page like Instagram. So I also wanted to say a few words about the fact that the award is open globally to artists of all backgrounds, all disciplines and career stages. And we welcome applications from artists working across all media, from visual arts to performance to digital art, film, and more like interdisciplinary practices as well. We do hope that this initiative in general will encourage artists to think about their digital presence in a different way, not simply as promotion or maybe as a contact page, but also as a meaningful and lasting archive. So we're very excited to see all the diversity of the applications to come, and hopefully from the artists from across the world. So the applications, they opened a couple of days ago on Monday, on the 11th of May, and they will remain open till the 1st of November. Semi-finalists will be announced on November 6th, and finalists on November 20th, and then the winners will be revealed during the Art Basel Miami on the 3rd of December. Now a couple of words about the prices, about this exciting part, and it's in total $50,000 in prizes supporting artistic development. And when we were thinking about the prizes, the categories of them, we really wanted them to be meaningful and also useful for artistic careers. That's why all the prizes, you will hear more about them today. They are intentionally quite diverse because we wanted also to offer these opportunities for artists which can support them in different ways, both financially and professionally, creatively, personally. And this is also why we treat all these prizes as equally important parts of the award ecosystem. So we are also very excited to be adding additional opportunities and partnerships along the way, because the open call will continue for quite some time. So yeah, whether it is a grand prize of $15,000 or the other prizes, each opportunity was selected because we do believe that they can really create an impact. And I would specifically like to focus right now on the residency prizes. The first residency takes place at Château du Fresne in France, not far from Paris. As you can see, incredible images of it. And it's an absolutely stunning place, and both historically, visually, incredibly beautiful interiors and exteriors. And it is indeed like one of those environments that immediately spark imagination and also reflection. And it's a very special place. Also, it can inspire artists to engage deeply with the storytelling and with the historical context of the place, or just to focus on developing their own practice in a very supportive environment. And here I want to point out that the founders of the residency, Gijs and Angelo, are deeply connected to artistic communities in both France, but also in the Netherlands. They are kind of based in between two countries, and they always create a very welcoming and caring atmosphere. I also wanted to mention that this residency is supported by our partner, is.art, which is a social handle service, which is designed to give artists and creatives a recognizable digital identity. So that's why you can find out more about this residency at chateau.is.art. So Chateau is art as well. And the second residency is hosted by the Anfitrion in Marbella in Spain. And it has quite a different energy, I would say, and rhythm. It is a hybrid contemporary artist residency, but also a boutique hospitality project in Spain. So this residency will last for 2 weeks. And yeah, it's a like resort-like environment surrounded by nature. So it will be possible to slow down a bit, recharge, reconnect with yourself, with nature, create space for new ideas. Without the everyday pressures, so to walk around, to reflect, rest, etc. And we felt it was important to offer both kinds of experiences, because artistic development doesn't happen only in one type of way. So sometimes creativity comes from intense research and production, but sometimes on the other hand, like it comes from slowing down and allowing yourself to think differently. And now my colleagues, Jeff and Anastasia, are going to tell you more about the rest of the prizes. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Daria. So the next prize we have is editorial at Whitewall.art. And I think it's a pretty amazing one because, of course, PR is important. Everyone wants coverage. And Whitewall, really, having been established in 2006, has become, over the last 20 years, one of the sharpest editorial voices in the art world. And really, it's with much pleasure that we can say that they are our editorial partners for the entire award. And Laurent, as you will see later, one of the co-publishers of Whitewall, is actually now a jury. The distribution is, of course, daily in a digital form, and then quarterly they publish a print magazine, which is distributed at all of the most important fairs like Art Basel, Frieze, and all of those. So yeah, I think to be able to offer that is something we're quite proud of, because, of course, we will be covering as well. Other platforms will be publishing information about our winner on the .art blog and on other partnering publications, but really Whitewall leads the way. And yeah, I'm excited to see who will merit this kind of honor. And Jeff, how's your connection now? Could you walk us through the next part?
Yeah, of course. So the grand prize, of course, is easy to understand. It's $15,000. So cash is king, as they say. So the number one prize will be $15,000 in cash, which, of course, the artists can use to support themselves, to support their art, to promote their art however they want. And then we'll also have a prize of a premium.art domain. So as many of you may know, premium domains are typically keywords, common phrases, domains that have been determined to have a higher value because they're easy to remember and they get more attention. And so one of the prizes will be a $10,000 premium.art domain, so a domain of that value. And usually they're great keywords. Like, for example, just yesterday, someone registered indigo.art, which was a $10,000 name. Other names in that category, estate.art, jewelry.art. So the winner of this prize will have the opportunity to choose whichever $10,000 domain they want. So they could pick something that will help support their artwork, their business, etc. A lot of times people call these domains category killers, because if you get a name like jewelry.art and you are someone who makes artistic jewelry, that's kind of a category killer when people search for it. So we're very excited, of course, as the domain registry, to be able to offer a high value domain as one of the many prizes for the .art award.
Thanks, Jeff. Now it's over to Yelena, who I'll add to the stage. Yelena is head of HUG.art, and she'll introduce our jury.
Hi, can you hear me well?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, it's really a great pleasure to be here today and to speak about award.art. I'm so excited to see all the applicants. I'm excited to see HUG already applying, because so many of them already have that art domain. So it's a very natural thing for them to apply. So I'm super excited to present this jury. I won't be going in detail for each of them, but as you can see, these are very distinguished art market professionals, from major museums to the platforms, and just in general, thought leaders and artist advocates. So I've been working with actually some of them for years during my career in arts at the major auction houses, and so on. So these people are here for you, and they have a great taste. So I'm super excited to have them here on our side, and help us to select the best of the applicants for the award. I can go into some details if you want me to, or let me know how deep you want to go.
I think you could introduce the jury member present with us here today. That would be great.
Oh, that would be the best opportunity. So the jury member who is here with us today, her name is Sasha Stiles, and she's one of the artists that I've been working with for many years now at the fair that I co-founded, called CADAF. And beyond that, we've worked together on many, many occasions. And just in general, I'm so much admire her work. And of course, all the latest accomplishments, the MoMA shows, and numerous shows around the world. I cannot even name them. Speaking now briefly, so super excited to have Sasha here today. Sasha is also the founder of the platform for artists, so she knows firsthand how difficult it is, but also how exciting it is to create art. And I think, you are all in great hands with her as a jury member. Hi, Sasha.
Sasha, if you could unmute yourself, that would be great.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, can hear you.
The obligatory snafu. Well, thank you so much, Elena, and so nice to see you all. It's really nice to be here for the launch of this award project. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
I think if it's still okay with you all, I'm delighted to be able to share a little bit about my practice and just give some insights, as an artist, as a fellow artist, and now, very honored to be here as a jury member as well. I just wanted to share a bit about my background and also share a bit, about why I think this particular award. To start with, I'll give a brief background. Again, my name is Sasha. I'm an artist whose primary medium is language. I work with language across many materials and forms, from ink and paper to paint and canvas to software and code. And since 2018, I've also been working rather intensively with large language models that I fine-tune on my own writing in order to invoke a kind of AI alter ego. And my interest in the intersection of art and technology really goes way, way back. I'm first generation Kalmyk-American of nomadic Mongolian descent. My maternal family came to this country as refugees after the Second World War. And my father, meanwhile, was a student of communications at Cambridge who came to the US to continue his studies. And by the time I was born, he and my mother were working together, making science documentaries of all things. So I really kind of grew up in this strange intersection of physics and folklore and astronomy and Buddhism, and of course, art and technology sort of colliding in really, really interesting ways. I was a very analog child who came of age, like many of us, alongside the internet. I remember things like, dialing up to AOL for the first time when I was in school, studying the classics, studying ancient Latin literature and things like that. And so I think maybe inevitably my work has very often sort of been about technology in different ways, and has really sort of slipped backwards and forwards between the ancient and the future, between analog and digital, between hardware and software, because that's really the environment that I grew up in. It's really kind of the mindset and the frame of reference that has formed me as a human being. And so that part of my backstory, I think, is really, it's an essential part of my artistic practice, and sort of being able to share that has been meaningful. It's been helpful to sort of, I think, create some context for the work that I do, which very often, is work kind of about the juxtaposition between past and future, between physical and virtual. And in fact, my practice is really rooted in a juxtaposition, maybe a seeming contradiction between two things that on their surface might look quite different from each other. On the one hand, poetry, and then technology on the other hand. And those two things kind of coming into contact with each other are really sort of the engine of the work that I do. I am very deeply rooted in the idea that poetry is both a beautiful and profoundly human art form, that goes back many, many, many years, but that poetry is also a technology, a powerful technology of consciousness and memory. And I think to some that's a little bit contradictory, but it's been very exciting to get to explore this idea within the realm of digital art. As Elena mentioned, to sort of bring these ideas in as co-founder of a platform called theVERSEverse, which is all about intersections of art and multimodal forms of creativity. And I've really been grateful to be able to use my studio and my practice as a space to explore what poetry might have to say to us in this very interesting moment that we're living in, that we're all trying to grapple with. I often think about poetry, as I said before, about being not just an art, but also a technology. And I think a lot about the fact that it actually sort of embodies a synergy between the human and the machine that I think is very relevant to some of the things that we're all kind of living through in this moment, here in the early stages of the AI age. I really think about poetry as being a form of creativity that brings together emotion and algorithm. It entwines nature and technology in order to make meaning. And I think that there's something really sort of beautiful and hopeful and maybe clarifying in being able to sort of look at things that way. So I share all of this just to give a little bit of context, background to the work that I do. And I thought maybe now I would pause and share a short example of a work of mine. This is a poem that I wrote in collaboration with my AI alter ego back in 2019, and which I later then turned into an audio-visual adaptation in 2021. So let me share my screen. And
thank you for giving this overview when you said that you grew up at the intersection of physics and folklore and then named like 5 more things. I was jealous. I think that sounds like an awesome childhood.
It was pretty interesting, I must say. Okay, so I think, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Share screen.
Yeah. With all this AI and everything, we're still, there's still screen sharing and unmuting to do.
Oh dear. Let Well, I keep pressing share screen, share screen. All right, let me try and share my entire screen. Maybe that'll be easier. Any luck with that? If not, we'll power through.
It's not coming up, which is annoying because we tested this on one day and it worked.
I know. Huh. Yeah, it's not doing anything different on my end. Well, maybe we'll just take it as a message from the tech gods and I'll read something. I'll read a human poem instead. How's that?
That sounds great. We're all we're very pro-human here at .art.
Okay. So apologies for not being able to share that, but these are sort of the backstage moments and the aspects of practice that I guess
give
all of
the
us artists are aware of.
Right.
Okay, so let me just close that down on my end. Well, actually that's fine because I'm gonna maybe talk a little bit more about something else that Elena mentioned, and I'll let this lead into a little bit of a reading before I hand this back over to the .art team. I wanted to, as I mentioned before, share a bit about why I thought this award was particularly interesting, from my perspective as an artist. A lot of my own work, as I think I've shared in some of the previous remarks, a lot of my work really does have to do with process, with thinking and research and, areas of interest and fascination that have really occupied me for a very long time. And I think also, both as a writer and as an artist who does a lot of work with systems, I'm really very interested in the relationship between input and output and really kind of going beyond the surface to look at the inner mechanisms that are really powering what you can actually see. I'm very interested in things like, research and drafts and revisions and the editorial process. And then I'm also very interested in a lot of behind the scenes work like preparing training data sets and crafting prompt architectures and running generative algorithms that create various iterations over time. And a lot of that is somewhat hard to capture in a snapshot artwork. Maybe sort of somewhat visible at a glance, but there's a lot more that it is fun for me to be able to dig into and to refer to when it comes to a particular project. And so that's actually why when I released a paperback edition of my book, Technology, and I included some new material in this book that wasn't in the original. I included dozens of pages of interview transcripts and sort of contextual material that I thought was important to include. So this book is basically, it's sort of a document of my experiments writing with an AI co-author. And, this AI co-author is one that I had trained over time on my own writing, on my own poetry, both published and unpublished. And I really wanted to be able to pull back the curtain on some of that a little bit. And so I included material in the end of this new edition of the book that really sort of, I hope, offers a little bit of a window into not only how I was working with early systems like GPT-2 and GPT-3, but, why I was doing this, what was my initial interest? Why was I, drawn to the area of natural language processing? Why did I begin to become, open to the idea that it might be possible to write poetry in collaboration with a machine? And so that's led to a lot of interesting conversations and projects over time. One example of which is a project that Elena mentioned called A Living Poem, which ran at the Museum of Modern Art in New York from last fall to earlier this spring. And that piece was really a live generative system that integrated verse and voice and visuals to enact an ongoing sort of infinite poem about what it means to be human in this strange, more than human age that we're in. And if you had gone into the museum, you could see this poem, you could see the visuals of this poem on a large LED screen. But there was so much more happening behind that screen that was also part of the project. There were 10,000 lines of code, and there were, you know, days and days of research into the history of language art that were sort of fueling my prompt architecture, and all this stuff that to me is really a very important piece of the work. And so one of the things that felt very exciting for me was to sort of, as part of that project, create a companion book, an artist's book, which is called the Codex, that sort of takes a lot of that background material and turns it into something that I hope can add some context and maybe more enjoyment and more understanding, more depth to the work itself. So I thought, just to maybe close it out, if I have just like a minute or two more, that I would just read maybe a tiny bit from the Codex, which is in development now and hopefully coming out in published form in the next month or two. So I'll just read a very, very brief piece from a section of the Codex called Why Poetry?
That sounds great, and thank you for that, explication, because really context is what really adds value to any artwork, and that's kind of the point we're trying to get across with the award.
Yeah, absolutely. It's why I think this award is so meaningful. Well, I'll read for 30 seconds and then I'll jump off.
No, please take your time. Great.
Why poetry? What does it mean to be human in a time of screens and surveillance, acceleration and abstraction, widening inequality and the planetary costs of our technological progress? That question sits at the heart of my work across both my human writing and my experiments with AI. A living poem emerges from my lived practice, my experience as a writer working inside a rapidly transforming technological landscape. It is grounded in the lineage of text-based art and poetic experimentation that shaped me, while also being formed by contemporary tools that increasingly structure how language circulates, how it accrues value, and how it shapes perception. When I began my hands-on AI research in 2018, following years of philosophical and writerly inquiry into our relationship with technology, these tools were largely ignored or regarded as novelties or threats. Today, they are embedded in daily life. Whatever uncertainties remain, the forces they have set in motion now demand sustained cultural, ethical, and imaginative engagement. Poetry has always been how humans grapple with existential moments like this one, whether personal or collective, periods where inherited meanings strain or fail and new ways of understanding are required. It is the form we return to when questions of mortality, agency, time, and belonging exceed the reach of explanation alone. And this goes on, but I'll stop there. Just again, wanted to share a little example of how it is very important to my process, I think, to pull back the curtain a little bit and reveal some of the thinking and the underlying bones of the work as well.
Oof, thank you. It's going to be hard to follow this up because it was great, Sasha. But nevertheless, I'll add the rest of the team back to the stage so we can talk a little bit more about what we've been discussing. I know Daria had some questions kind of following up from what you've been sharing, Sasha.
Yes, thank you, Anastasia. A couple of questions. So your work, Sasha, often explores what it means to be human in a more than human or like algorithmic age. Do you see the internet today as an extension of artistic consciousness?
I do. I mean, I think a lot of my work has to do with collective consciousness and sort of looking at how technologies are linking us together in really profound ways, and actually in thinking about maybe the core ethos of technology as really about communication and about enabling relationships between us that wouldn't be possible otherwise. So that idea of connectivity is really important. And I think, for many of us, and I'm sure many artists who are watching this, the internet has been a really important place for us to come together. It's sort of been, a room where we can all gather and talk shop and share, experiences and support each other. And I know that for me and, you know, for so many of us, being together in digital space has really been formative and has been really important to our artistic journeys. I always think about, you know, coming into the digital art space and the Web3 space has been, you know, like walking into a decentralized global artist residency where, you know, we can all sort of hang out together and, you know, we can be artists together and all that brings with it, and, you know, share the highs and lows. And so it's nice to sort of have a place where we can put our heads together and try and find the support we need and also provide support to others as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And another thing I wanted to ask you, like what kind of artistic voices do you hope .art Award will bring forward? Like what are you looking towards? I don't know, maybe we can speculate of course now. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that's been one of the great joys of being involved in this global digital art scene in so many ways, has really been getting to know so many artistic voices and practices that are, you know, maybe not available to me through other means, right? There may be people that I never knew about just going to galleries or museums, or who maybe I never read about in some of the, you know, the usual publications. It's been a way to really kind of cut through all that and get to know people who are doing really important work and who are sharing really meaningful points of view. And, you know, sometimes for whatever reason, don't have a platform or don't have a stage or haven't had, you know, the opportunity that they need or the visibility that they might require. And so, you know, I hope an opportunity like this is kind of continuing to give a platform to people who deserve one and who've been working really hard to make incredible work and now really, you know, deserve to have that work shared in a larger way. And, you know, that's a really big piece of an artist's career, I think, is it's making the work, and the process behind it is a really beautiful and important part of it, but then also sharing the work, putting it out into the world is a really brave and difficult task. And so, you know, I think this feels like it is going to be a great opportunity for, you know, for hopefully some voices that are new to many of us to make themselves heard. And I think that's a really wonderful thing.
Wonderful. Yes, we think about it very similarly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe we could continue this by actually talking a bit more about the application process and the applications themselves, since we have Sasha here who's part of the jury and all of us on the team. The team, of course, of .art will not be involved in the judgment process, but will be sort of mediating it. But perhaps still, each of us could give a little tip to the applicants about the one thing that we think is important for those applications and what we're looking for. Sasha, would you mind kicking it off?
Sure. Yeah, and I'm really happy to be part of the jury. I think that's an honor, and I look forward to all the applications that come in. It'll be really exciting to get to sift through and to learn more about so many new artists and their project. I think maybe my tip is to tell your story and really just think about how you can, you know, provide a sense of a narrative about who you are, what interests you, what fascinates you, what motivates you, what really inspires you as an artist, and you know, not to just focus on maybe a particular piece, but to really kind of share, you know, the journey that has led you to create this piece and has led you to this moment in your artistic journey. And I think, again, that's hopefully what something like this particular award makes possible, or at least makes more convenient, is making it much more feasible for artists to easily sort of share various bits and pieces of how they've gotten to this point, you know? So thinking about how to, to take all the different sort of beautiful experiences that you've had that have informed your work and to put it into a narrative, a story that really is able to sort of, cut through the noise and to tell us something about who you are as an artist.
Yeah, that's great. And I think I would just build on what Sasha has said by saying that, we are expecting hundreds and hopefully thousands of applications. So really your task is to stand out and be very mindful of perhaps the most strange, awkward, bizarre thing about yourself and your process, because very often that's actually what's going to catch the attention of the jury, of the viewer. That's a tip from me, and perhaps Jeff wants to continue.
Yeah, I think it's great. And Sasha, thanks for sharing everything you shared. I love your idea of poetry as technology. It's really interesting. It's something I want to, at some point, dig deeper into. But I think tips for people applying for the award is take advantage of the easy tools we have. Video, people want to see behind the scenes. People want to know, the proverbial how the sausage is made. So if you have the opportunity to set up your phone and videotape your creative process, show yourself creating your artwork, whatever that might be, I think that's fascinating to people and inspiring to people, because when they see how it's done, that inspires them to think, wow, maybe I can do things similar, or I can pursue my creative urges that I've been afraid to. This is inspiration for me to do so. So I really think take advantage of the fact that the application is not just a bunch of words and a picture of your artwork. The application is an opportunity to share video, to look at the camera and tell the jury, what you feel and what you think and why they should be picking you. So I think take advantage. We live in a time where we all have the ability to produce content, with that silly phone in our pocket. Use it. Upload video, to whatever site you're pointing your .art domain to, and take advantage of that. That would be a tip from me. Use video.
And I will even add a little bit more on that one. Just like don't limit yourself. Like it can be not only video, but also maybe audio, maybe music piece which inspired you. Just also, of course, like explain a little bit like why. But then it can be also part of the application. Of course, sketches, of course, the rest, maybe some archival work, anything. Like we're very curious to see that.
And one thing I want to mention that I don't know if we mentioned it before is, so even though the application includes a link to an online destination, which could be a website, et cetera, it's not a web design competition. So you're not going to be judged by the design of whatever platform you're sharing. You're going to be judged by your story, your documentation, and your artwork. So it's not about how your website looks. So don't worry about that. It's really more about you, your story, and your art, not the platform you're on.
Just wanted to add to all of that is that context and story behind the artwork is so important. And I think it's one of the funnest parts when I go to the museum or to a show. I always love reading about the creation of the work, about the artist. I think that's what brings the light to each artwork. So this is so important. And as an advice to the artists, just by working a lot with both artists and students, I can say, one thing, please don't be shy and don't hesitate, just apply, don't overthink it. I see so many people who are, who definitely have something to say, but they don't say it just because they don't think that it's valuable or that they're a little bit shy. I really think that the key here is, to take power into your own hands and to apply and to make this effort, and you can get some wonderful things out of it. So that's my message to the artists.
Yeah, and something to add is that we'll be announcing more prizes as we go along with application processes, because of course we keep getting more and more partners involved, and we'll also have a lot of opportunities for applicants. So once everything is announced, we love to showcase our community and the people who gather up the courage to actually apply and we'll see your artwork. We'd love to give you opportunities as well to get featured on our platforms, and there'll be plenty of that that going around as well. I would actually like to ask Sasha for a sneak peek into her practice of archiving and kind of, working with her own context. I know a lot of the context that Sasha goes actually into your artwork and you showcase it, but what about the parts that stay behind the scenes? Do you have any, what's your process in terms of working with your own archives and documentation?
It's such a good question because I think for a lot of us, it's hard because there's a lot of documentation, there's a lot of process that is physical, of course, but then there's a lot that's digital. And so it's always kind of a question to figure out what you might want to save and what you might want to get rid of. And I think as an artist too, I'm always battling between the desire to save things so I can maybe use them for later. And then also just, if I get to the end of a project, I want to just kind of clear the decks and get ready for the next. So I think in general, I am pretty good about, really sort of saving all the different bits and pieces behind a lot of my projects, especially the digital and the generative projects. So I can go back and sort of revisit variations on them and look at, maybe, look at different bits and pieces and how they might be useful for future projects as well. So if I have, my technology data set is maybe a good example, because my technology data set, is in one way, it's sort of an archive of my writings. But it's sort of this active dynamic archive that I'm always sort of evolving and changing in different ways. So, it exists in one format for a project I did in 2020, and then it might exist in a completely different format for a project that I'm working on right now. And so having different, kind of timestamps of what that looks like at different moments in my life is interesting for me. It's sort of like going back and looking at my, looking at a diary or something. So in practical terms, I am often saving versions if I'm working in places like GitHub. I have my histories and my versions and all of that I'm, I've gotten pretty good about cataloging, because who knows when you might want to go back and access. I think, it's important, especially now, I think, for artists to give some thought to how they are documenting, how we are sort of, archiving, timestamping, saving moments from process, because it really is part of the story of an artwork. Particularly when it comes to a lot of digital artwork, not that this is limited to a certain type or genre of artwork, but, I think there's a lot of growing interest, right, in how something came to be, and sort of looking at maybe different variations or different pieces and how it sort of fit into the larger puzzle of an artwork. And I think it is nice and, not just nice for the artist, but nice for a viewer, or nice for a potential, curator, to, be able to look back and get to see more about how a particular piece, came to life and was born into the world. So for provenance, it's probably important, for your own sort of knowledge and, just being able to refer back to things. It's nice, but, from a more formal career standpoint, I think it's very important to sort of have these materials at the ready, so you can share them and you can, show more than just kind of the output. You want to be able to show the input as well.
Yeah, I love the comparison you made with journaling, because I think actually that's a very good point. And any of us who've had the experience of reading our old journals, I think you can see these versions that you used to be, and you have to let the old versions go for the new to appear. But then it's very nice to have sort of like a snapshot of these versions. And of course, when it comes to your creative process, it's even more important, because often from that comes whatever the next thing you're going to make is. And yeah, as we were saying before at the beginning, just something else to emphasize is that the prize, in the way, of course, there are these amazing grand prizes that you all want to win, but the prize is actually going to be in the process of you organizing your artwork and creating making sure this context lives on and preserving it for your own practice. So we really do encourage everyone to go through it as an exercise for the creative practice. But Sasha Sam also mentioned something very interesting, the curatorial point of view, and this is where I want to ask Daria, from her point of view as a curator, how important it is to have all these archives and, you know, stories behind the scenes, and how it helps you in your work, for example, of curating artists and putting together exhibitions.
Wow, I would say that my life would have been much less complicated if they were out there. You know, that's basically my comment. It would have been lovely, really, like to be able to find it and to find more people related to, you know, certain topics through some, you know, search engines, etc. So yes, I think like a lot of colleagues will reply the same way, I guess. Yeah.
There you go. So if you're getting ready for the next career move, it's important to have those things in place for the next curator you meet, basically. Jeff, Elena, is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up? Nope.
Elena?
Sure. Yeah, I just want to emphasize again that you know, it's pretty easy for artists who already have .art domains to apply. And I want to speak here to the HUG community, of artists. So I know a lot of you already have your .art website. So I can't wait to see all of you applying. And those of you who don't have .art domains yet, it's also pretty easy to get them. So yeah, let's talk. I would love to see more HUG artists as a part of this open call of this award. I also would like to thank Sasha for participating. I think that her feedback is going to be so valuable for the artists. Yeah, so I think it's just a great opportunity that I encourage you all to take.
That's a great point, Elena, too. It's if you have your story and your artwork and your history on a platform like HUG.art or ID.art, you know, we offer another platform. It's free, ID.art. If you point your .art domain to your profile on HUG or ID.art, that would be perfectly fine for an application. Or even if you're on another artist platform somewhere else, just have that .art domain point to your profile on that platform. And as long as it has that documentation and information, that would certainly be a perfectly valid application. So it doesn't have to be a website. Of course, a website is great, but it can be your profile in a number of different places that your work and your story is presented.
Thanks, Jeff. Well, it's been great. And yes, thank you, Sasha, for taking the time to be with us. We might have to have you again online because, you know, we do want this whole poem experience. So we might have to do another webinar when the tech is on our side. But yes, please visit www.award.art, check out the application requirements, and do remember that if you decide to get your domain on get.art, you can get 50% off with promo code webinar, which is valid for all domains, including premiums. And we are really looking forward to seeing your applications. We'll be doing more of these webinars with various jury members and kind of, you know, giving more tips and showing a bit behind the scenes of how the jury is sieving through the applications, hopefully. And yeah, looking forward to this new chapter in the life of .art domains. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone.